My name's Caleb Miller. I'm the lead worship pastor here at Compass. You know, for a lot of years here at Compass, we gave to the church, but we didn't really tithe. And I kind of grew up in a family where we didn't have a lot, and my wife is a missionary kid, and they didn't have a lot, and when we got married, we didn't have a lot. We started in ministry, didn't make a lot of money, and so we gave, but when I would look at numbers, I would always be convicted that I hadn't really taken that full step to give 10% of what we made as a couple. And I'm in ministry doing this, and 4 or 5 years ago, I still remember we were doing our taxes and I got our statement back from the church, and I looked at it and I just thought, man, like, we're not even close. And I remember talking to my wife about it, and we just decided, even though we can't afford it, we're gonna step up and give. And it was really hard, and it's continued to be really hard. And so for a lot of years, we've given our tithe to the church, and I've served here at the church. And this last year, we started this series called Uncharted. And part of me was like, this is exciting, and another part of me was like, great, now I'm gonna be asked to give more to the church. So we decided we were gonna give a higher percentage than what we'd been giving. And I still was wrestling with it, but our commitment weekend rolled around, and on top of the higher percentage, we had chosen a one-time gift to give as well. And I remember sitting down with my wife and talking about it, and neither of us really wanted to write the check because it drafts out of my account, and a lot of times I don't think about it, but here I was with the checkbook in front of me, thinking about a really big number. And we wrote the check, and I still remember that feeling of like, do I put this in or not? Because at the time there were some bills that needed to be paid, there were some improvements on our house that weren't necessarily improvements, just things that were broken that needed to be fixed. And I went ahead and put the check in, and it was one of the hardest things I've done. Just because it was the biggest amount at one time that I'd ever given away in my life. I'd like to say that, man, life got great all of a sudden, but it didn't. There were actually more struggles on the backside of that, because now we're looking at our finances, and I've got a daughter getting ready for college, and we're making less money because I'm giving more of what God has given me away. In the midst of this Uncharted season, my wife's grandfather, who is just an amazing man of faith, passed away, and we were expecting it, and she flew to Utah for a funeral, and she called me from that funeral and said, hey, I think I might get an inheritance. And both of us were like, there's no way. And the check was for 10 times the amount of that check that I had put in the offering plate. And it was just an amazing experience to see and to feel and understand God's faithfulness. And never in my life did I think that a financial sacrifice would result in a financial blessing. Like, I believe that when we give, like, we give just out of our hearts, and that God blesses us not very often in financial ways. But this was a way that God said, hey, if you're gonna be faithful here, I'll be faithful in this way. I think it really all comes down to just saying yes, to just saying, God, if you're asking more of me and my family, we're willing to give more. And it's unbelievable how God works in that way. So I just want to encourage you, pray about it, think about it, talk to your family about how can we stretch ourselves, how can we be faithful, not just in what God asked, but how can we be faithful in even more than what God is asking for us. Because I think if you do that, that God will show up, that God promises that He'll be faithful.